Welcome back, one and all, to another day, another week here at the Damage Report with me, John Iadarola, and joining us, as always, on Fantastic Mondays, Francesca Fiorentini, host of the Bitchuation Room. How's it going, Francesca?
How's it going with me? How's it going with you, birthday boy? Yeah, that's right. It's John Iadarola's birthday, everybody. You know what to do. He's an old man.
So much older. Old man wind. No, I just I'm old. That's why I'm not at the studio right now.
He's just an old nerd.
Who has the energy to drive places? No, we're in the grip of the atmospheric river in California. It's flooding. So as to lower the chance that I die, I'm broadcasting from here. I don't want to pull like a Final Destination. They've had me written down for diabetes or heart attack for decades. I am not going to try to mess up the fates by dying by flooding and drowning and all
that. Especially not on your birthday. That was like not that festive. No. Unless you were in like a cool little umbrella upside down like Winnie the Pooh. John, what are you doing for your birthday to celebrate?
Nothing. No, but we celebrated the birthday yesterday. We did gifts. My daughter bought me an additional, an adorable cat like cookie holder, very cute. My mom made me a massive Pop-Tart as a cake.
She crawled herself. She rolled herself down to the Target. Your daughter?
She rolled herself down to the Target, brought back the gift, and then gave me a card mimicking the penmanship of my wife. But anyway, but it's very cute. And we watched Jurassic Park and we ate food. I baked bread for the first time in my life from scratch.
How was it? How would Paul Hollywood? What would he say about it?
It wasn't stodgy. It could have risen a little bit more, and it was like as pale as me. But aside from that, on taste and texture, delightful. I think I did a pretty good job.
That sort of describes this show, you know? Taste and texture, you got it. Very pale.
Very pale.
Especially in the winter.
But chewy, definitely chewy.
It'll do the job.
Yeah, well, anyway, that's my birthday, but weird, and this is the weirdest thing. It's also producer Mike's birthday. How had we never come across the fact that we have the same birthday before? You can't see Mike, but he's right
decided
there. He's the show.
Mike is trying to replace you slowly.
Taking over my identity, I see.
He planned his birth.
Yeah.
Well, he and his mom schemed to have him born today. But also, happy birthday, Mike. We love you.
Happy birthday.
You do so much great work.
Is that a new haircut, Mike? I like it, actually.
It's exactly
you
like
stole
John's.
my birthday. I'm stealing your haircut. Anyway, okay. Well, with that, some people are beginning to think like, wait, I thought they talk about politics, and no, we generally don't. But we will a little bit. And I'm excited for everyone in the audience to discover what's on the rundown. I'm excited for Francesca to discover what's on the rundown. Burn. But anyway, we got a lot of awesome stories to talk about. So everybody, thank you. I see the messages, and I'll be responding to some during the breaks. But for now, people are asking how old I am. I'm finally on the verge of hitting 30. It's not yet next year, but I'm about to hit 30. And with that, let's jump into our first story.
You've been mentioned as a possible vice president for Donald Trump. Had you been vice president on January 6th, would you have certified the election results?
Oh, George, this is such a ridiculous question, in part because the law has changed here.
Ridiculous question, says JD Vance. JD Vance, who, as was pointed out by Stephanopoulos, would love to be the VP, would love to be in the position that Mike Pence was in when he was receiving pressure from that same president, Donald Trump, to just ignore the law, ignore the Constitution, and deliver a win to the guy that America rejected. It is ridiculous from the point of view of JD Vance, because like, come on, George. Why are you asking me questions like this? You know I'm going to side with Trump over democracy, but now I got to do this hullabaloo, blah, 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 the law has changed. Well, the law has changed only insofar as it was necessary for some reason to clarify that the vice president doesn't actually get to pick who becomes president. Most people seem to already understand that. Most senators, I think, already understood that. There were some Republicans and former presidents named Donald Trump who didn't get that. So it had to be clarified. But the role of the VP has not changed at all. So let's just be very clear about that. That said, before we jump into commentary, I want to give you a little bit more of the back and forth about this issue and what potential role JD Vance would play in coup number 2. Take a look at this.
Do I think there were problems in 2020? Yes, I do. Do I think it was a problem that big technology companies working with the intelligence services censored the presidential campaign of Donald Trump? Yes. Do I think it's a problem that Pennsylvania changed its balloting rules in the middle of the election season in a way that even some courts in Pennsylvania have said was illegal? Yes, I think these were problems, George, and I think there is a political solution to those problems. If I had been vice president, I would have told the states like Pennsylvania, Georgia, and so many others that we needed to have multiple slates of electors, and I think the U.S. Congress should have fought over it from there. That is the legitimate way to deal with an election that a lot of folks, including me, think had a lot of problems in 2020. I think that's what we should have done.
So to be very clear, if he had been in that position, he would have said, F you law, F you Constitution, we're just gonna give it to Trump. We're just gonna do that. Bye-bye America. You're done. And do I think it's a problem that JD Vance would participate in a coup? Yes, I do. Do I think it's a problem that JD Vance, who pitched himself back in the day as a never Trumper, eventually got around to the fact that, oh, they really like Trump. He's not going anywhere. So I guess I just believe whatever he says. Yes, I believe that that's a problem. Do I think it's a problem that he is pretending to think that the 2020 election was illegitimate when he knows it was not? He is lying to you, Trumpers. He does not actually believe that. Yes, Francesca, I believe that is a problem too. What do you make of JD Vance?
Oh, John, don't make me respond to this question. You know I'm a coward.
Ridiculous.
I'm a sniveling, opportunistic coward. Like, it's just and it is terrifying. What starts to be sort of funny and ridiculous, truly, as you outline there, is terrifying, because he then says, no, I thought there were a lot of problems with it, and I would have sent it back to the states, created his own new law, which, mind you, John, we were there. We covered this. We covered the 2020 election. It's not like this all happened in a day. It didn't even happen in a week. It was months. There were so many court cases that they all lost. There was nothing to stand on. So that when they finally, when they finally actually had to transfer power, certify the election, that even the senators that were super Trumpy were there's nothing here. They wanted something to be there. They super did, but there was nothing there. But it is very scary that effectively what he's saying is, yes, I would have done that. And a lot of these Republicans just needed a little bit more shred of evidence. Again, we were all waiting for the fabricated, truck of ballots to have been found in a ditch. Oh, Giuliani's just there, writing in little ballots with crayon. But there wasn't anything there. Still good on Stephanopoulos, right? And I know he goes even harder, but
and pushing back, yeah, it was good. And yeah, a little bit more evidence, I would say, or any evidence that it was illegitimate, then they would have ran with it. Or let's be clear, pretext. If the insurrectionists had gotten in, had killed a few Congress people or whatever, then Trump could have declared martial law. He would declare all of them as Antifa provocateurs, by the way. Fox News would immediately jump on that, even though they know it's not true. And he would say, with all of this uncertainty, we're gonna have to throw it back to the states. And what do you know? I'm president for the next 4 years. That was the plan. That was what they wanted. They didn't get it that time, but perhaps next time, or perhaps not, because as JD Vance is laying out, I guess Kamala Harris can just decide that Joe Biden won. Well, to be fair, the vice president can just give it to the person they want if some people believe that it was unfair or illegitimate. And by the way, in every election, some people believe that. That's your standard, JD Vance, but as Francesca laid out, he doesn't believe any of this. He's an opportunist. And that's, I guess, that's the best thing to be in American politics. You can go from an author who is trying to have sort of a serious life to literally a vapid, feckless senator if you simply give up all of your morals, all of your values. And he did that. And now he's got the power and influence that he wanted far more than he wanted anything having to do with the values he pretended to possess as an author.
Before we move on, just really quickly, can we just point out how hypocritical it is for him to say that big tech is in the pocket of the Democrats or whatnot, when he accepted millions of dollars from the founder of PayPal, Peter Thiel, and who owns Palantir, and one of the most creepy like tech lords there is when it comes to putting their thumb on the scale in our elections in terms of dark money and whatnot, and also rolling out some of the creepiest, most surveillance ass like technology we have. That's what I'm calling it, surveillance ass. But like they don't, like Republicans don't see that. They always blame big tech, but all they mean is that like you couldn't say the N-word under the old Twitter openly, you know?
Well, and by the way, what he's alluding to there is supposedly the idea that Twitter was biased against Trump, when that's not what even the Twitter files found. And they found that Trump was trying to crack down on Democrats' speech. He knows that, he doesn't care, he's gonna lie about it because he is an empty suit. With a lot more ambition than consistency or principle. With that said, I want to turn to another topic. I've been asking for the media to pressure Republicans with this, and in this next clip, you'll see George Stephanopoulos do just that.
How do you respond to that your support of Trump is sanctioning that kind of behavior, sexual assault and defamation?
Well, I think it's actually very unfair to the victims of sexual assault to say that somehow their lives are being worse by electing Donald Trump for president, when what he's trying to do, I think, is restore prosperity. So I think it's insulting to victims of sexual assault.
So that is JD Vance responding to this PSA implying that Donald Trump, who has been found guilty by a jury of sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll, who's now gonna owe something like $90 to $100 million to her as a combination of penalties for the sexual abuse, but also the defamation that he has spent the last couple of decades heaping on top of the trauma that he gave her in abusing her in the first place. To JD Vance, I mean, what does he care? Like, honestly, what does he care? He's in for a penny, in for a pound. He's given up all of his principles. He's not gonna let the fact that a jury found this guy guilty of sexual abuse stop him from supporting him. And also, more importantly, this is like one of the things he needs to be least concerned about as a Republican, of being on the wrong side of it, implying that women lie about the abuse that they suffer, that their trauma isn't important. That's not gonna hurt you on the Republican side. He went on to say, by the way, that the election should hinge on important issues, not over these ridiculous court cases that frankly they've been throwing at Trump from well before he became a political candidate, which, by the way, if they've been doing it since well before he became a political candidate, I guess it's not as political as you guys have been saying. I thought it was just because he was a politician. Apparently, they've been around for a long time. And this is not just a court case. This isn't a frivolous lawsuit. This isn't Judge Judy. He was found guilty and he owes $100 million. But anyway, Stephanopoulos pushed back, saying, you call it a ridiculous case. These were juries that found him liable for sexual assault and defamation. That's ridiculous. These are juries. Oh, this is the response from JD Vance, who says, these are juries, George, in extremely left-wing jurisdictions. These are cases that are very often funded by left-wing donors, and they're cases that are funded explicitly to harm him politically, not to seek justice for any group of individuals. First of all, I love that it was in an area that's blue or whatever. So I guess it doesn't count. But also, let's say that it was funded by a left-wing interest. What does that have to do about whether he did it or not? Whether he defamed her, whether he sexually abused her? The financial backing of a lawsuit does not speak to whether the lawsuit is true. It might imply that they're just searching. But we had the case and the jury decided that they were not just searching, that he had done this, that he had and continued up until the day that the verdict was announced, defamed her. But again, he's able to be so fake because he doesn't have to speak in a way that's convincing, because nobody who would ever think of supporting him or Donald Trump is ever gonna question literally any of this, Francesca.
But I do agree with him, and I just have to push back a little bit, John, because I do think that Donald Trump is going to restore prosperity for sexual assault survivors. I mean, look at E. Jean Carroll. I mean, she is just prosperous. I mean, what, 85 million, almost $100 million after it's all said and done.
A lot of money.
Prosperity has been returned. Keep talking, yappity yap yap yap. It's just incredible to me that he would even say that. Well, who cares about sexual assault survivors when prosperity? Okay, well, let's have more of the those who have accused Donald Trump of similar actions. Let's have them come forward. Let's return prosperity.
Yeah. It should not be this easy to just write off all of these concerns. Like he is not Donald Trump, I should say, JD Vance as well. But Donald Trump is not a particularly impressive guy in a lot of different ways. But his ability to He is the most successful con man, scam artist in the history of our nation, perhaps the history of every nation combined, that he can get so many millions of people to not care at all about all the evidence. It's not like he's good. Lots of wealthy, powerful people are good at stopping you from ever finding out about their scandals through NDAs, paying people off. Elon Musk does it. Tons of people do it. He doesn't even successfully do that. We find out about so much of it. I can't say all of it, by definition, but enough, and it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter because he's scammed these people so thoroughly.
But John, anyway, can I interest you in a horse?
In exchange,
I know there's a lot of
what?
How about a horse?
Yeah, I love that people have moved on from that story somehow. He will have a reckoning. Elon Musk's reckoning will come.
Oh God.
I don't know when, but at some point. Anyway, okay, let's move on to, obviously this is JD Vance, senator. What does he think about the Supreme Court, another branch of the government that he serves in? There's this big war going on over the border. Well, let's jump into the first bit of this part of the interview.
I think that what Trump should do, like if I was giving him one piece of advice, fire every single mid-level bureaucrat, every civil servant in the administrative state, replace them with our people. And when the courts, because you will get taken to court, and then when the courts stop you, stand before the country like Andrew Jackson did and say the Chief Justice has made his ruling, now let him enforce it.
Fire everyone in the government, then defy the Supreme Court. You think it's okay for the president to defy the Supreme Court?
No, George, I did not say fire everyone in the government. I said replace the mid-level bureaucrats with people who are responsive to the administration's agenda.
Every civil servant in the administrative state.
One of the problems, no, George.
So look, we need to be very clear about this. And most people watching this clip probably already know what we are going to discuss here. But JD Vance is one of those necessary, willful tools that allows democracy to fall, that allows fascism, an authoritarian form of government, to take its place. You can't just have a Trump. Trump cannot succeed in destroying a country like America by himself. Not if those in other positions of power stand against him, if they do what is demanded of them based on the Constitution, based on just who we are as a people. But in every case where a democracy has ever fallen, in every case where an authoritarian state has risen up, it has been not just because of despots and dictators, but because of people like JD Vance, who know better, who certainly should know better, but believe that power, influence, wealth, luxury, excess stands on the other side of the transition they will help to make happen. And by the way, I don't need to convince him of what Trump represents or what sort of government he's pushing us towards. JD Vance once said Trump might be America's Hitler. That was a thing that he said. And I assume it cuts off after that. And I guess it continued with, and so I guess I'm on the Trump train. Woo, woo. If he's gonna be Hitler, I suppose I'm gonna put on a uniform and start goose-stepping behind him. But regardless of whether he had come to that conclusion back in 2016, that is the role he is willingly playing right now.
It's wild to me. You're absolutely right that the road to fascism is paved with these cowards who will absolutely, as Mike Pence on January 6th, the question was like, hey bud, you wanna put your head in a noose right now? Because they're calling for it. I mean, that is effectively what it is. And all of these like minions to put it, or like whatever, like they are going to be the first ones thrown under the bus by Donald Trump or a second Trump administration. And I have to say, John, and we talk about politics all the time, part of me is just like, what more power do you want? You're a senator. Like, you're a wealthy dude. You've got tax cuts up the waz. You've got opportunities on like completely limitless. Like this, and it's such a failure of our democracy, and it's a failure of Democrats. I gotta put it back on the Democrats because they are in cahoots with this slow slide into fascism. It's like you're offering, because someone like JD Vance is just like, all right, well, if no one's gonna put the reins on me and the reins on this Republican Party, then yeah, let's do authoritarianism. Let's just do it all.
Let's just do it.
And because they're bored, they're like, gee, we got our tax cuts. We've got the Supreme Court. We're rolling back all of the gains of like the 50s and 60s in this country, of the civil rights movement, of the women's rights movement, LGBTQ plus movement. I don't know. Hitler? Like what's left? What is left for them?
Yeah, you always gotta have another goal. Yeah, and that's what he's doing. I mean, he's literally saying, well, the Supreme Court doesn't have a military, so we can do whatever we want, which is an interesting principle that I guess we could apply right now. They said you don't have a right to an abortion, but Joe Biden's in charge of the military, so maybe you do have a right to an abortion.
If only
How many
Joe Biden
legions
could.
does the Supreme Court have?
I want
saying,
the National Guard to perform abortions.
Yeah,
No,
I'm just
I
saying,
do.
like,
I do.
theoretically, all of this is optional now. You don't actually have to follow it, according to JD Vance. JD Vance has provided the philosophical, ideological underpinning for a left-wing dictator. That's what he's doing right there. Now, of course, I don't want that. I don't want any form of authoritarianism in America. But if it's good for the fascist, it's good for the gander. That's how it works. And by the way, final point before we close. This is the sort of thing that George Stephanopoulos has to do. This interview, those questions, that follow-up. But doesn't it feel like footage that will someday appear in a documentary of like all of those lining up and being like, no, we're ready for authoritarianism. You're asking, oh, you think that this is a thing where there's norms and stuff? No, I believe that we can do this. We're gonna do this. That's what it feels like to me. Anyway, with that said, we do have to take the first break of the hour. We will be back with more news after this. Oh. Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna partially blame the fact that I woke up in the middle of the night because my dog had unfortunately peed and it took a long time to clean it and I couldn't go back to sleep for like an hour. So my brain's a little bit all over the place. But I have to give credit to Brett because what's good for the goose stepper, that is just so much better.
Yeah.
That is good.
What's good for the goose
I
stepper?
love it.
You got it.
We gotta use that, Brett. See, that's why he gets paid for this
Who's
stuff.
Brett?
Who is Brett? But anyway, you know who Brett is? Brett's a guy who finally met my daughter over the weekend and he held her and she loved him. She was like obsessed with Brett.
Okay, well.
Smiley and laughy and all that.
She doesn't like women then because she's not a fan. Both times I held her, she was like,
no, she just required more socialization. But I do think on like a deep level, she's suspicious of women. So I think that my daughter will make a great Republican senator someday. Anyway, that's the weirdest joke. Anyway, let's see what's going on out there in the audience. I had opened up this doc and now I don't have it. So, okay, there we go. Let's see what's can I give the Bloomberg gift card to Brett? By the way, I can't, but I really like what's good for the goose stepper. It must have killed him when I said what I said and he had it ready to go so much better.
I mean, I should have thought of it. I'm the comedian.
Jump in there then, huh? Okay.
I'm funny.
Brett says he had one already, Bloomberg gift card. Okay, let's see. Dragons don't know I'm not real bacon says, what? John had a baby before he turned 21? I'm old fashioned that way. Anyway, thank you, Moonshine Dragon. Very nice of you. Wait, how do you know my actual age? I gotta get on Wikipedia. Anyway, Gabby says, okay, but when is Bart's birthday? That's the one which matters. First of all, the fact that you said that's the one which matters, I'm guessing is grammatically correct, but it bothers me on a fundamental level.
I feel like Gabby's a bot paid by Bart. I think Gabby's a shadow account. Gabby's a whatever account.
Hey Bart, how's it going? Barbara says, happy birthday, John. For 8 years now, my 10 a.m. slot is TDR all the way. Thank you. But now I'm worried you're a bot because I'm pretty sure we used to go live at 9 when we started. So are you actually a devoted fan? No, I'm kidding. Anyway, thank you for being here. Okay, Swedane Dragon gifted 10 memberships over on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
Thank you. Very nice of you, Swedane Dragon. Adam Fogarty has been here for 35 months, almost 3 full years, and says, happy birthday, producer Mike. Oh, and John too, I guess. Thank you. Moon Dragon, member for 34 months.
Producer Mike probably is 30 or nearing 30.
Is he even?
28.
Okay. I'm just getting more and more
28 vibes.
At those who are young, so that's fun. It says happy birthday, Mooniversary. Like all good people, nudge nudge girlfriend, but not ex. This is the age of Aquarius.
What?
Is that that's an Austin Powers thing? I think. Okay,
nudge,
again, as I said, I had weird sleep last night, so I apologize.
This is such an Aquarius move of you to like get no sleep.
It is. It's such a move of my dog to pee all over the floor. Alex Ward, member for 10 months, says, as grim and dark as the world may be, know this, you don't owe $50 million to people who cost you $90 million. That is good. Does Alex Ward have a Bloomberg gift card? because I like that. Alex Ward, confirm or deny, or we can check. We have a spreadsheet now, but let's find out because I like that comment. And we have 18 seconds. Brett the Bulldog Dragon, member for 15 months, says happy birthday, John. Pro tip from a parent: Super Nanny on YouTube has a video for any parenting problem. Trust me. I have to look that up. Thank you for the suggestion. I'm gonna do some watching later on, and we have more news coming up on the other side of this.
Super Nanny.
Welcome all to the next block of the show. More fun interview fallout starting with this.
By the way, we had unbelievable people. We had to look, I rebuilt the military.
Yeah, but your critics say you had plenty of personnel mistakes.
No, of course, but everybody does. Obama had. What about Biden? Look at the people running this Biden thing. The difference is I fire people. I fired Comey. I got rid of him.
You didn't fire Christopher Wray.
Well, you know what? At the time, I don't know. Let's see what the final judgment is. But I didn't fire Christopher Wray. I didn't fire people I would have, but I fired a lot of people. You know, I had turnover. They have no turnover right now.
He did fire a lot of people. It's sort of his thing, but that's a feisty Maria Bartiromo. She said, but your critics, that's what you say to someone who you have very little respect for when you kind of, stupid points you're making. And she pointed out Christopher Wray. She pointed out a lot of good examples. That was like more follow-ups than you get across multiple Trump interviews, and it was all on one topic. She was, and I'll put this in terms that Donald Trump would understand, she was given across kind of like a nasty woman sort of vibe there to him. I like it. She seemed almost like a journalist once again. But it is interesting that she is able, apparently, to push back against him on something that is a legitimate, it's a weird area of his presidency that he talked about how he was always going to choose the best people, and he so frequently chose people who, on the one hand, had no capability to do their job or were chosen specifically because they would dismantle the very government offices they were put in charge of. Nobody really focuses on those that much. They focus more on the people who he ended up hating. They said something he didn't like or did something he didn't like, so he cast them off and called them traitors or never MAGA or whatever. And there were a lot of both types of those types of people. And Maria Bartiromo there, following up from some of the previews of this interview we'd gotten a few days ago, seems able to criticize him on that, which we don't see a lot of in Fox News interviews of him. And he didn't really strike back against her. So I don't know if they'd had some sort of agreement or something, but that was a different sort of Trump interview than I'm used to, Francesca.
Yeah, but it wasn't like she was holding him accountable to, protect American democracy or uphold the Constitution or abide by law. She was like, why didn't you fire more of these deep state bureaucrats? You should have fired Christopher Wray, even though he pretty much did everything you wanted him to. He opened an investigation into the FBI itself for its investigation into Michael Flynn. He was doing the investigating of the investigators. So she was, yeah, Maria Bartiromo, I think it's more striking that he wasn't offended or didn't get mad at her, but it was really her just being like, why weren't you really crazy? I feel like you should have been crazier back there, babe. Why didn't you fight them harder? That was the vibe she was giving off.
Yeah, no, I guess that's fair. I don't know, I've been weirdly wanting to give her credit over the last week or whatever, because obviously, there was a time when she was a real journalist. That was a very long time ago, but I don't know. I just want some sort of omen, like that the Republican Party might be turning at some point. Like you see in the distance a white dove or something. You think, oh, maybe the tide is turning, but perhaps we're not there yet. So with that, we're gonna turn to where the interview got weird in ways that Trump interviews do typically go. Let's jump into this clip.
I have steel people that every time they see me, they start to cry. They hug me. They said, you saved our industry, but now we're letting it go.
So according to Donald Trump, he meets up with steel people. Who technically they're Iron Men, I think. But anyway, and they cry. Every time they cry.
Very difficult to get a steel person to cry.
I know, you think they'll rust. But the weird thing about this is that Donald Trump and longtime followers of American politics will know this, frequently claims that people break down in tears around him, typically when hugging him. So back in 2019, he told of a man who wept as he begged Trump to cut regulations. He was crying. He said, "Sir, you give me back my life and my property." He also spoke of others at the event as tough people, strong, tough men, huge hands, and women, also big hands. Half of them were crying. Half of a crowd. Have you ever been in a crowd where half of them were crying? The previous year, he mentioned someone else breaking down in front of him. He was a strong, tough guy, great abs, and he was crying. He said, "Mr. President, thank you for saving America. I'm telling you, that man, he was tough. I don't think he cried when he was a baby." The year before that, an event where farmers and ranchers were weeping behind him as he gave a speech. And they were such powerful tears that they must have evaporated the second they left people's eyes, because there's no footage. There's footage from the speech, but no footage of people actually crying. And of course, he also claimed that Ron DeSantis cried as he begged Trump for an endorsement. And look, I know, Francesca, what you're gonna say. I know what a lot of you libs like to say, that he's lying or that he's exaggerating or something. But have you considered the possibility that when people hug Trump, they are exposed to the full power of the smell of his body, and that might pull tears from your eyes? I remind everyone of the reporting of his very peculiar odor. But what do you think?
Yeah, what was it? Like hamburgers and makeup? Wasn't that the sort of like onions plus tons, like costume makeup? Like it's Halloween and you know, it's like crusted on your face. Yeah. Like just a sweaty clown. I mean, he truly is a sweaty clown. Oh God, I like. There's so much swamp ass, like just that smell. But I believe it. Like John, we've talked about how this is a cult, and we know what people do when they are around their gurus and they break down in tears. I don't think he's lying about the crying thing. I think in fact, we're gonna get to a point where I think he's already mocking it. Like they think I'm God and I just want to get myself and my family rich. No, mostly just me. I'm just trying to get out of jail. Like,
well, look, if you're right, and if it is actually happening, and we can't rule out the possibility that that's how powerful the cult is, he definitely has no respect for those people. Like he doesn't have empathy. If a fan came up to me and was like, I really love the way that you speak about this particular issue that's important to me, and they started crying, I would literally start crying. He does not have that capacity. He doesn't experience empathy. And look, maybe I am too quick, first of all, to joke, but also to write off the possibility. It is possible, and if it's true, if like Steele people or people, the regulations or whatever, are coming up to him and breaking down because they think that he is going to help them, that kills me. Because there are people who do desperately need help, who unfortunately are Republicans, are MAGA people, and they don't get how little he cares about them and how little he will ever do for them. And that is devastating. I know that we're not inclined necessarily to distribute our empathy to people who, wouldn't mind us being lined up against a wall and shot or whatever. But on some level, it is very sad that there's so many people who might fit into that group.
I wish I had more empathy. I truly do. I don't know if it's there anymore. But I just, again, they can still be racist without him. You guys, you could still be racist. You're gonna still be racist without Trump. You could move on, find a new racist.
Plenty of George W. Bush fans were racist. They didn't need Trump at that point. If it was Ron DeSantis, you could be racist. Hell, with Nikki Haley, you could be racist against her.
Exactly.
Like you could have it coming and going.
Yeah, she wants that. She says openly.
Cool, doesn't think it exists.
Nothing's racist.
Anyway, okay. Jokes aside, let's get back to where it gets serious. Whenever we're ready, we can jump into this.
Chinese are paying $35,000 a head, $50,000 a head to come to the southern border. They're paying the drug cartels this money. The number of Chinese nationals, and they are military-aged men, you're right, up 1,100% year over year. Are they being directed by the Communist Party to come here?
I believe so. And I believe we're going to have a terrorist attack 100%, 100%. During my term, I had no terrorist attacks. You know that, right?
So there'll be saboteurs? What are they?
I had all sorts of bans on people from certain countries. I had bans all over the place. We had no attack.
That is, of course, not even close to a lie. It's not in the truth. It's not in the neighborhood of the truth. It's never met the truth. Of course, there were terror attacks under Donald Trump when he was president. So many of them. We were chock full of them, and we will go through the details. But let's also talk about what led to him making that repeated lie about no terror attacks while he was president. It was the idea that Chinese migrants are entering the United States through the southern border, and they're being directed there by the Communist Party. Now, are there Chinese migrants entering the US through the southern border? Yes, apparently it's a significant portion. But you will notice they always, whenever a migrant enters the US, they were directed there. Whether you're from China or from Guatemala, no one has control over their own life. No one makes a decision to go either to flee the situation they have domestically or to go in search of a situation in the US. They're sent, okay? The Mexican government sends people, the Guatemalan government sends people, China sends people, because everything has to have sort of like someone pulling the strings behind the scenes. That is the conspiracist worldview, and there is no topic that escapes it for the right. What do you think, Francesca?
I mean, meanwhile, Trump accepted $5.5 million from China during his presidency. While he was in office, he got money from China, and we're just, you could pay that money and get into Mar-a-Lago if you're like, hey, I'm rich and I'm Chinese. Hey, what's up? Like, if only I had money, I could do that. But like, I love this, the China stuff is so ridiculous when it comes from Trump, because again, he accepted this money. He loves when it's like rich Chinese millionaires or billionaires who wanna come and like, curry favor with him. He accepts it all over the place. But now, of course, this like incredibly racist ass question gets asked by Maria Bartiromo, and suddenly now we're talking, and it's truly scary, because when I hear him say we had no terrorist attacks, which again is a lie, but you feel like we're being set up for, again, another moment, right? Like that if something happened in the United States, on American soil specifically, what would Trump do, right? What would his reaction be? And as we see, this, assault on Gaza spin out of control when it comes to the United States and Israel, and it getting to be a wider regional war, it's something that should be on all of our minds. Like, how will this could it affect our domestic policy? How could it affect, any kind of attacks on Americans? Already 3 service members were killed. What happens when it grows to be more, right? Or it happens here, like, yeah. And these are the fools in power, not just Biden, but Trump.
Yeah, and everyone never forget. I mean, many of you are probably too young to have experienced it firsthand, but the entire course of American as well as regional history was changed by the fact that 9/11 happened, and right-wingers used it for the stuff that they had wanted to do, and they did that in foreign policy and domestic policy having to do with your privacy, consolidation of power of the executive branch. Like, they used that, and it's not like they're the only people that would ever do that.
Exactly, 100%. And Democrats went alongside. I mean, went right along with them, except for Barbara Lee for Congress.
That's true.
Senate. Sorry.
I will remind you all, despite what Trump said, Trump's own DOJ alleged that a mass murder in New York back in 2017, which killed 8 people and injured others, was a terrorist attack in support of ISIS. DOJ also alleged that a 2019 attack by an extremist member of Saudi Arabia's military, which killed 3 US service members, and Fox obviously freaked out about that just as much as they're freaking out about what happened in Jordan, was motivated by jihadist ideology carried out by a longtime associate of al-Qaeda. The DOJ said it was a domestic terrorist attack when one of Trump's supporters mailed improvised explosive devices to prominent Democratic officials. Not enough people talk about that these days. In 2019, a white supremacist pleaded guilty to multiple charges in New York, including first-degree murder and furtherance of an act of terrorism for killing a black man in March 2017, specifically to try to start a race war. And Trump's Justice Department described a 2019 shooting massacre at a Walmart in Texas as an act of domestic terrorism. 23 people were killed. All of those took place while Donald Trump was president. He didn't care about them when it happened. He doesn't even remember that they happened at this point. So that's the truth. Sorry, Trump. Sorry, Maria Bartiromo. We shouldn't have cut off the video, by the way. That was unfair of us, because obviously she reminded him of all of these attacks when he made that claim.
Of course. But John, those aren't terrorists. Those are fans. Those white supremacists, when they do violence, nah, they're just fans. They're 100%. Fanboys. No, it's wild. It's true. I mean, that's what we truly forget is like the amount of, and again, Democrats are off the scent on this, they've been thrown off the scent. I mean, Christopher Wray, we're talking about firing Christopher Wray. He actually alerted the Americans to the fact that the biggest threat when it comes to so-called terrorism is homegrown domestic terrorism, i.e. white nationalists and anti-government extremists who are big fans of Donald Trump. But where is that? Okay, now we're back on the Islamophobia trail once again.
100%. I know we're gonna have to go over to do it, but we have to briefly talk about this. So let's give us a few minutes. I won't indulge myself too much necessarily, but if you are worried about Donald Trump becoming president, you might want to amp that up just a little bit, because some stuff that should be indisputable to the American people is not yet getting through. There's a new poll. Twice as many voters think Trump has the quote necessary physical and mental health to be president compared to Biden. Either one of those would be insane, but it's both. He leads 46-23. First of all, let's go with, I guess maybe the easier one, the physical health. I'm not saying that Biden's gonna be doing a triathlon or anything, but Biden is still capable of riding a bicycle before he falls off of it. He will fall off of it, but he rides it first. When was the last time we saw Donald Trump ride a bicycle? Falling off or not, by the way. I mean, mount it. Mount a bicycle in front of the voters. You don't even have to debate. Just get on top of a bicycle, spin it around once the pedals, and I'll be impressed. But then mentally, I understand that it has been more of a campaign talking point that Joe Biden's mind is the consistency of rice pudding. I get that. But Trump speaks way more than Biden, which means he makes way more public flubs than Biden, short circuits on stage more than Biden, and it's not getting through. My takeaway from this, Francesca, is they've started to hit him a little bit on that. Joe Biden put an ad on Truth Social of all of his little mental mix-ups and everything. They've got to hit him harder on that. They have to at least equalize this thing. Let's agree as a nation, despite how partisan, how tribal we tend to be, both of them are losing their minds. Can we at least agree on that,
yes.
Francesca?
Yes, we can. And in different ways, which I think is really fun to sort of observe. Like Biden knows what he's saying, but he can't get it out, right? Like Trump, no idea what he's saying. He doesn't know what he's saying, but he can absolutely say the words. So their word clouds are very different. You know what I mean?
Like, they should work together.
That's what I was gonna say. If they teamed up, dude, they should have just a power sharing agreement.
Yeah.
Adorable, adorable.
If they teamed up, they would have a person who can have a thought and express it.
Indeed.
And it would be a new dawn in America. But no, but anyway, look, we know that all of this is branding. They're taking situations with Joe Biden and I would argue exaggerating them or just making them up with deep fakes. Whereas Trump, like in his interviews, we still don't know what that, we're an institution in a death penalty. Nobody's figured that one out yet. I don't think anyone knows, but a lot of people are concerned, more should be. So anyway, look, there's other issues too, by the way. Head over to NBC News for this new poll because it is fascinating. It talks about some of the areas where Donald Trump is, in danger potentially. People who are concerned about immigrants being treated humanely, obviously way prefer Biden. Dealing with the issue of abortion is a big winner, but not nearly a big enough winner, by the way, for Joe Biden. So expect that to be the focus of a lot of campaign ads. But in terms of like controlling the border or dealing with the economy, like somehow they have forgotten what the economic priorities of the Republicans were. And this is in a time when the economy is picking up. Maybe that'll help a little bit, Francesca, but he's got to get moving on shifting some of these things.
I don't get me started. No, I mean, I think that, first of all, I do think that people who say that he's not mentally fit, it's not this, it's somehow, again, when the other option is Donald Trump with 91 indictments hanging over him and also like open, like brain bleeding, just like head wound style, head wound Hitler, as we've called him. Like, it's like, I'll take a sort of a semi-coherent Joe Biden. I think a lot of people are making that argument. So I don't think it has much to do with policy because that's sort of the sad state that we're in. But I agree with you. Biden needs to course correct immediately and put something out there that isn't just look at the other guy, look at the other guy, look at the other guy.
I agree. Well, we'll end on that note, but we will be watching. Let's take a short break. When we come back, though, we will be talking about the new border bill. The details are out. We'll be breaking it down after this. Okay, everybody, let's see what's going on out there in the audience. The Burninator Dagron sent in a super chat to say, happiest of birthdays to you, John. Quick shout out to my wife, Novia, who is your birthday twin. So I will never, ever forget your birthday. I hope it is a good one. Love you too, Franny. Thank you. It's very nice of you. Let's see. Night Parade Dragon had said, Franny, have you watched Has Been Hotel yet?
No. Why? Should
John
I
is too
be a
basic.
contestant on it?
I don't know. It makes conservatives cry, and I know you would love it. Okay, I'm not
Ooh.
familiar with it, but you should check it out.
Has Been Hotel.
Okay.
I love that.
I like it. Let's see. Carmine sent it a super chat saying, caught your stream on the primary over the weekend. Yes, I did a live reaction to the South Carolina Democratic primary results. Joe Biden obviously won. I did that on the Young Turks YouTube channel. And despite the trolls, you stayed as always sharp and insightful. Your integrity and wit is essential in today's media hellscape. Never changed. Thank you. It was mostly me arguing and responding to trolls. So if you like that, good. If not, that's what it was. I think that I comported myself well, but that is what it was. It's sort of like saying like.
From which side? From the right?
No, mostly like more like I like Biden. How dare you imply that there should be a primary, set aside democracy because I like the guy who's currently the incumbent sort of stuff. But I think it did a good job.
I love those trolls. Yeah.
Yeah, they're the best. Okay, Just Diane, thank you for your cool, very nice of you. Brian Miller says, John with the good hair and on a Fran day at that. Thank you. It actually got rained on as I was walking out. But anyway, I've just been so frustrated with my hair and I just want something manageable that I can replicate every day. That now every time I look at producer Mike, I get mad because he's got a very manageable haircut. And I'm thinking, I need that. I need that. And he took my birthday. CJ says there's rumors that Trump just smells like poop all the time. I have not heard that rumor. Usually it's a mix of a variety of things that individually are okay, but you combine and it's a dumpster. But maybe I didn't see the reporting that you've read. Okay, let's see. Over on Twitch, Big Lab 65 has been here for 39 months. Says happy birthday, John. Thank you very much. Very nice of you. Poe the frickin' Rican Dragons been here for 40 months. Says the Big 4-0. Thank you, TDR and TYT fam. Thank you. At first I thought it was an attack against me, but it's just 40 months. Anyway, Yonex for 27 months says, why is Trump still at large? Totally. By the way, we did not get to report on the fact that the most important, I think, trial, the January 6th trial, is indefinitely delayed.
Yep.
I mean, maybe we should have covered that, but it's 3 days old, but like, it's kind of the most important thing. Like, how are you not gonna let people know before Super Tuesday? Well, I mean, you couldn't wrap it up by Super Tuesday, but before the general election, like, I'm not even saying for Dems or whatever, but like, don't Republicans deserve to know whether he's guilty or not? That seems crazy to me. Anyway, okay, Mandalorian 84, love the name, by the way, he's been here for 17 months on Twitch, thank you very much. Sedona Susan for 39, thank you. Fritters for 32, you sound delicious. Ghost Dog TV has been here for 35, thank you very much. Okay, ZB says, happy B-Day. Hope you have the very best and that your little one brings you the joy this SC world can't. Thank you. My daughter she's in a period of months that they call like the enchanting phase, where babies tend to get easy and cute and chatty. And she's very much in that. Like everything she does is adorable.
Yeah, I love that.
I take so many pictures of her.
She can't move around. It's great. Can she sit up yet? Almost, right?
She doesn't sit up, but if we sit her up, she can stay for a while until she falls over, and that's the cutest thing.
Oh yeah, we used to put like pillows around my daughter, just like surrounding. All right, I'm done. Fuck you.
Francesca was telling a very adorable story about her daughter and was cut off by the hard break at the end of the social break. But it's a good idea. I might have to do that. Except that I like when my daughter falls over. It's very cute. On a bed, she's safe. Very
Wait,
safe.
Can I make it up by doing a quick plug?
What's your plug?
Come see me in Sacramento with my husband, Matt Lieb, on March 17th, which is a Sunday, Sacramento Punchline. It is St. Patrick's Day, so you better come out. We're drinking, we're having fun. Sacramento Punchline, March 17th. I hope to see you there.
Everyone go check it out. And with that, okay, let's jump to, I guess, one of the most important policy debates of the next month or so. Let's do this. The Senate border bill has now been released by the Senate, and that means that it goes to the House, and we're probably in for a period of weeks or months as both Democrats and Republicans get into rooms with experts and dig into the details and figure out whether they will support or not. No, I'm kidding. They're done. Speaker Mike Johnson tweeted, "I've seen enough. This bill is even worse than we expected." And we won't come close to ending the border catastrophe the president has created. As the lead Democrat negotiator proclaimed, under this legislation, the border never closes. Well, of course the border never fully closes. What the hell are you talking about? If this bill reaches the House, it will be dead on arrival. And it's because I read it. I sat down and I read all the words, I read all the pages, I looked at the details, and it wasn't just that I read bleats from Donald Trump telling me to kill it. It's not that, it's the detail part. He would have you believe, Mike Johnson. So anyway, look, we know who he is. We know why he's doing what he's doing, and we will certainly make fun of him more. But it's important that you at least know what this bill is designed to do, because it is effectively quite the gift to the right. And still, it could be dead on arrival. So it's a $118 billion bill that doesn't just cover the border. It also includes funding for Ukraine as well as Israel and a number of other, it's like they mashed a whole bunch of stuff together. But the biggest policy part, aside from distribution of funds, is on the border. So it includes a trigger mechanism that would allow the border to be effectively shut down to migrants if crossings have been particularly high for several days in a row. Around 1,400 migrants would still be able to qualify for asylum at ports of entry. That border emergency provision, which expires in 3 years, would automatically kick in when crossings reached 5,000 per day for several days. But a president could choose to use the tool at a lower number, 4,000 per day. The proposal would make it harder for migrants to apply for and qualify for asylum. The bill also encourages quicker resolutions to asylum cases at the border. It creates a new removal authority to speedily remove migrants who don't qualify for asylum. It is so much of what they have been asking for over the years. And the 5,000 number, which is really a 4,000 number, is not like, it's not like the gate at Disney or whatever, where they just like tick off, okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,000. Okay, now we're gonna get serious. That's not how it works. This isn't like 5,000 people enter free. They are still going through the system. So there are a lot of willful lies being told about this bill, but a lot of it was effectively written in large part to give the Republicans what they want, to abide by their requirements for what happens at the border. And it just happens to be an election year, and Joe Biden happens to be the president. So screw all their claims about the border and what they've asked for in terms of policy. It might very well be dead just because Donald Trump wants it to be. What do you think?
Exactly. I mean, and it goes to the heart of it, and we've spoken about this before, that the border ultimately is simply a talking point. It's simply a way to gain points, to score political points. Donald Trump did it in 2016. He tried to do it in 2020, but then he pivoted to people who didn't want unarmed Black Americans to be shot dead in the street. But this is what they're going to do all the time. Nobody is serious about actually addressing any kind of immigration crisis, which is the fact that there are 11 million undocumented people who've been living in this country for decades, who deserve a pathway to citizenship. The real crisis is people, family members, children, pregnant women dying on the border because the United States has basically made a gamble, no matter whether you're Republican or a Democrat, that they want to be scarier than the cartels or whatever awaits these families who are seeking actual asylum, who want safety, who want to live in peace. That is the true story with this border deal isn't that Republicans are being sort of petulant little children about whether they want to vote for it or not, and they don't want to give Biden a win. It's that any Democrat would say that this is okay, that we're going to hand massive amounts of more executive power to the president to shut down the border whenever they so please, teeing it up for anyone. I mean, a Democrat, Republican to utilize this is just wild. So I don't care that they kill it. It is such a terrible piece of legislation.
Yeah. Well, we will have to wait to see if it is actually killed. But it's pretty obvious why they're doing what they're doing. That said, they don't like when you point out why they're doing what they're doing, or how hypocritical or lacking compassion or consistency they are. And we want to demonstrate that. Take a look at this video.
Spare me the idea that Republicans in Congress are impeaching Mayorkas or taking aim at Joe Biden because they care about unaccompanied minors at the border. That is just absolutely absurd. And if that is the case, then they should get with the program and get on board with the bipartisan border bill.
So Jason Chaffetz squirming angrily at the comments being made there by Lucy Caldwell, advisor to the Forward Party, who is 100% right about why the Republicans are saying what they're saying about the border, why they're doing and not doing what they're doing and not doing on the border. They're focusing on things that they think will make them look good, like trying to impeach Mayorkas. That's a thing that they can do that does not anger Donald Trump. They can do that and pretend that that means they're doing something about the border, which of course they're fear-mongering about 24/7. They don't want to go further than that because Trump doesn't want them to, and also because perhaps they really don't think it's the emergency that they pretend that it is. But regardless, the idea that it has to do with trafficking or concerns over what's happening with kids, if there's anything human or empathetic about this, I mean, that is a joke. And of course, Jason Chaffetz isn't going to like that. So here's his response.
I worked on this issue. I was in Congress. I was a chairman. I was on the immigration subcommittee. We started highlighting the problems on the border. But you know what? Joe Biden came in and changed all of those policies with the stroke of his pen. So don't give me this righteous indignation that Republicans don't care about the kids. If the Democrats cared about the kids, then where are the 85,000 kids? Where are they?
Congressman Chaffetz, I mean no disrespect to you. You are not a current member of Congress. I'm not impugning you at all. It is just the case that Republicans in Congress really seem to have lost their appetite. And I don't think that anyone honestly believes, and if so, then we are very, very far afield here, that Democrats don't care about unaccompanied minor children.
Okay.
But if we all agree we care about the children, then let's pass a bipartisan bill on immigration.
So it's very clear. She means no disrespect to Jason Chaffetz. I want to be very clear. I do. Because he's shaking his head when she says that they've lost their appetite. Take it up with your former colleagues. What are you talking about? Why are you shaking your head? Donald Trump, they spent months working on this, hammering out the details. Donald Trump sends a bleat and suddenly they're not working on it anymore. That's your party. It's super transparent. Francesca, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'll restate what I said, which I think both parties are full of it when it comes to this issue. I mean, I kudos this woman for standing up. I know she's with the Forward Party, for standing up to Chaffetz about Republicans, but Democrats do not care about unaccompanied minors either. Let's remember that Biden continued the Trump policies around the border, continued using the pandemic as an excuse to reject asylum seekers, as if COVID was coming in through the border. No, we gave it to one another. Mostly Florida gave it to us. But like, it's so disingenuous on all counts, and we just need a new way to talk about the border, migrants, as people deserving of real, talk about due process, right? We need to talk about, I know there's some things in here that are like some money to expand, no, the Democrats like, no, it's about the court system. We need a robust immigration court that actually gives migrants a date that is not too far in the future, that has more judges, that has more attorneys, all of this. That is what we need, and nobody's talking about that. Nobody is serious about this, and also nobody cares about saving people's lives, especially if they're coming from the southern border, and it's just wildly racist and xenophobic as always.
Well, I mean, look, I want to save their lives, but I don't want to do it if it's going to help Joe Biden in the polls.
Of course.
I mean, come on. Anyway, that's the end of the first hour of the show. Thank you everyone for watching. Those of you listening to the podcast, much appreciation. Please go rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. And with that, we're going to take a short break, but come back for more in the aftermath. Welcome back to the Aftermath, everybody. Sorry for the delay. We were coming up with new Taylor Swift songs. Anyway, we've got some news to talk about. We also have some comments to respond to, including this one from Margot, member for 14 months, who says, Francesca 2024.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
I'll be your chief of staff. By the way, did we find out if Alex Ward had a Blue Apron gift card? No? So it's good to go? No, Alex Ward does have one.
Yeah, it's good to go.
Sorry, Alex.
No, it's good to go. I'm getting the opposite of that.
It's no longer producer Mike's birthday. I am taking it away. Anyway, okay, then Alex, in that case, send an email to rewards@tyt.com with your handle and they'll get you set up, unless I misinterpreted that too, in which case I wash my hands of all of this. Okay, with that, I think it's time for some news. And what we have is we go to the weekend, we just want to relax, and then we come back. It turns out there's been some awful people mucking it up over Saturday and Sunday, and thus the Monday Menace. We're only 5 days into Black History Month, and already Republicans are just the worst. Colorado State Representative Ken DeGraff isn't happy with the State House of Colorado attempting to pass a resolution that would do something crazy. Honor Black History Month, that's it. Here's his take on why that's so.
Unlike the consensus non-science of Darwin's theory, which considers a race to be a primary characteristic, with darker skin being indicative of a lower level of evolution, it's non-science, 100%. But it's taught in our schools and celebrated by many in this room. I do agree that the history of all Americans, regardless of phenotype, be interwoven, because partial history is not correct history, and you cannot learn valid lessons from false history. We could, or should, talk about how the first owner of a chattel slave was a free man of African descent, or how the blood and treasure of Britain and the United States, trillions in today's dollars, went into fighting the slave trade that was promulgated by African American and Arabian empires who had based their economies.
Representative DeGraff, I'm going to put us in a brief recess. Thank you.
Dear God, he's just great. He's the best person to have at a party. Okay, so because of Darwin, we don't have to respect Black History Month, okay? Because something primary characteristic something. I don't know what genetics has to do with literally any of this, dude. It's like a holiday. It's to make sure that people acknowledge the cultural and educational and political and economic contributions of a group of people, regardless of what Darwin has to say about it, okay? And I shouldn't need to explain this to him because he already does understand this. We don't just pass these sorts of resolutions in state houses to recognize groups based on genetic characteristics. They had already done in 2016, 2020, 2022 resolutions to recognize Women's History Month. They were able to do that unanimously. There was no big controversy about chattel slavery or whatever. In 2023, the resolution for Italian American Heritage Month passed unanimously. That was just last year. And I know what you're thinking, well, that's surely genetic. I mean, look at the mustaches on those people and the way they gesture with those hands. That's gotta be a genetic thing. But what about in 2017, when Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month had a resolution passed in support of it unanimously? All of those things were fine. But the second it's Black History Month, the most annoying guy in your poli-sci class stands up to start talking about how white people aren't responsible, get off my back and all that. Francesca, what do you think?
Did you know though, the first motorcycle accident was actually promulgated by another motorcyclist that ran into them? So honestly, we should stop talking about like motorcyclists and have an awareness month about them, because it's the motorcycles on motorcycle crime. Oh my God, like I'm sorry, but like there's a theme to today, and it is like white people are racist. A lot of them in power. Who elects this guy? I just looked into his past. He like flew commercial airplanes. Like that's very scary to me. All right. I don't want racist white dudes flying my plane. Okay. I don't want that. But like, he is echoing every single white nationalist talking point that we've heard time and again. You say, hey, let's honor African Americans this month, their history, their contribution, their contributions to all levels, arts, sciences. Let's talk about their whatever, anything, sports, everything. No, because the first people to own slaves were also black. Literally a white nationalist talking point that they just invented.
He doesn't even really go that far. He just says the first person. There was one, and so I didn't read past that. I guess that's pretty much how it went the rest of the time too. I suppose that's pretty much what American slavery was like. It's just such a stupid person point to make that does not actually make the larger point that you're trying to make. But then he does go bigger. One person owning a slave isn't really a great point. But what about his other point, which is that slaves were in many cases rounded up and sold by African, or he's saying like Arab nations or something like that. Okay, that's a bigger problem. The people who did that in those countries are very bad people. And that is a major cultural and historic problem for their countries. This is our country. We do concern ourselves more with what we did in our country than with what other people did in other countries.
They did it. The black guy laughed at my racist joke. It's not racist. They did the slavery first. It's not actually bad. Like, they're three.
Still bad.
These are toddlers. Not even a toddler has more empathy.
Yeah.
Still bad. Exactly.
By the way, it ends, thankfully, I guess, with a bit of good news, which is that it passed, just not unanimously. There was one vote against it. Do you know who it was? It was DeGraff. It was that guy.
Oh, God.
I love that he was alone. It's the state he deserves to be in all cases.
And now we have this clip forever. Like, that's the other thing. It's like, dude, nobody used to pay attention to these people, these like random Colorado State reps. Now now we just did a video on it. We're gonna pull this up when he tries to run for higher office.
100%. And the joke is gonna be on him because he's gonna run for Senate and we're gonna play this and he's gonna win office and there.
Yeah, we'll just
sucks.
Yeah, we'll just be right though. Is that something?
But we will be right.
Okay.
Right is good. Anyway. Okay, we're gonna turn to another person with the intellectual capacity of a toddler. In a sec, Ghost Dog TV, thank you for being there over on Twitch for 35 months, much appreciated. Rebel Mitch for 43. Most people don't know that Mitch McConnell's a fan of the show, but we appreciate your support, Rebel Mitch. I'm kidding. How awesome would that be if he had a dragon name? Dragon Turtle, which is a
no. I think it's like what is it? Just like seen a ghost dragon. What is this? What I'm doing right now, like sputtering dragon, beach ball of death dragon.
Poor guy.
Freeze
He's still
dragon.
in office. That's crazy. Okay, with that, why don't we turn to kind of fun news? Let's jump into this. A new report is accusing Elon Musk of creating a culture of peer pressure to take drugs with him for fear of losing access and wealth if you abstain. So according to the Wall Street Journal, in the culture Musk has created around him, some friends, including directors of his businesses, like, the people on the board of directors, feel there's an expectation to consume drugs with him because they think refraining could upset the billionaire who's made them a lot of money, according to some people. More so, they don't want to risk losing the social capital that comes from being close to Musk, which for some feels akin to having proximity to a king. And I want to be very clear, I already know where the Elon Musk bootlickers are gonna take this, like, you guys are getting down on him because he likes to like smoke weed or do ketamine. He's just cool, man, he's cool. That is not the story that's being described here. This is a story of a guy who, rather than spending time with friends, is trying to pressure people who work with him to take drugs with him. This is a guy who desperately wants a social circle and has to force one to exist out of his coworkers. This is not a cool guy. This is a desperate, needy guy who doesn't have real friendships. And so people's like positions on the board of director is based on whether they anger him because they say no to a drug and he freaks out about it. That is not a cool dude that's being sketched out in this picture. We're gonna give more details, including on the drugs that are being alleged. But Francesca, what do you think of this?
Yeah, you're not popular when you have to convince people to do drugs with you. That's usually not how drugs kind of sell themselves, you know what I mean? Like but forgive me if I don't want to trip balls with the worst human on earth. Like, sorry, I don't really, no, I'm not trying to enjoy like a shroom trip with effing Elon Musk. Like, honestly, that's a terrible trip. That's a terrible time. But no, usually drugs sell themselves. And so if you can't do that, then people don't want to be around you, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know, John, what other midlife crisis things? Like it's
he
the
got the
most
leather jacket.
Right. We're buying things and running them into the ground. How many? I mean, he doesn't buy cars. He just has a car company.
He's just so desperate. He's so desperate. And I know that it is impossible to get his worshipers to understand this. They don't have a cringe radar. They can't tell. But like, if you heard that like there's a culture at TDR where all the people who work on it are like, we gotta like eat Pop-Tarts on cam so he thinks we like them, because if we don't, he's not gonna like us. Would you come away from that thinking like John parties? No.
Yeah, John's super cool.
Pathetic.
I don't know. He made me just like, we had to play
board games.
Dungeons and Dragons.
I don't want to be a dwarf.
Yeah.
Anyway, that would actually win me over if he did that. So here are the details, because there's been a lot of prior reporting about the apparent issues that he has with drugs. Back on January 6th, there was a report that he had used cocaine, LSD, ecstasy, and magic mushrooms over the years, to which he responded, "Whatever I'm doing, I should obviously keep doing it."
Oh,
except, should you? Like, have you been just killing it in all areas of life? Like, by the way, if you want to do these drugs, do these drugs. Like, don't take away from anything of this story that I think that you're bad if you do ketamine or so. I don't care if you smoke weed or if you do mushrooms. That's not at all what this is about. This is about him forcing other people to do it at risk of losing their jobs or their wealth. And it's especially like if you're just messing up your life and messing up social media and you're doing all this stuff that makes no sense, like you're just desperately trying to get right wingers to like you online. Don't imply that your drug use is making you a winner or something. You can be a winner and do tons of drugs, but he's not winning. So you don't get to blame the life situation that he has on the drugs he's taking. Francesca.
I mean, offer them a horse, dude. I mean, when all else fails,
offer them a horse.
How would you like a pony? Yeah, he's so pathetic. He's so pathetic, and also finally, like that's such a waste of psychedelics. I'm sorry, psychedelics being wasted on right wingers. Ugh, it kills me every single time. And also, I think it's really been apparent that no, sadly, weed, shrooms, and LSD, which I thought like engendered empathy and sort of helped you sort of get into the minds of other people and like commune with the earth. You know, every time I'm shroomed, I'm like, I love my mom and this tree. You know, like that's right wingers aren't. They're just like, I just want the brown people to live in their separate community. Like,
that's what I don't get. Like, yeah, you hear about it like causing you to sort of rethink the inherent connection of all living things. He doesn't seem to have had any of that.
No.
He's just turned more anti-immigrant despite being an immigrant, more close-minded, more like you're supposed to, like, aren't you? Like, I've never done mushrooms or whatever. I don't rule it out, but I haven't done it yet. Like, you're supposed to come to feel more comfortable with your state in the universe. But he's just more and more desperate to fill this unfillable hole inside of himself.
Yep.
This is a guy who is just a bundle of desperate needs that not even becoming the richest person in the world can even temporarily bring him a quantum of peace. You, dear viewer, watching this, I don't know what the current state of your life is. I don't know, like it's tough times out there. Maybe you're struggling economically. You are definitely happier with your life than the richest man in the world, which is an indictment not just of Elon Musk, but also of the way that we have been trained since birth to think that ever increasing amounts of money are the cure to all problems. They certainly don't seem to be for the rich. Tesla's general counsel and a SpaceX spokesman, by the way, did not respond to requests for comment. He's like shown up to meetings, apparently like high off his ass and made a mess of himself. So
of course.
Just, you know, it's like these are big businesses that like theoretically need to have a CEO who can function. And they're apparently like there's all these reports of like they're worried about him. And not just on the drugs. There were the reports of like he had locked himself inside like a room in Twitter headquarters, and people were worried that he might take his own life. Like this, like if a report comes out. Well,
someone must.
Let's not joke. Let's not joke. Let's not joke.
Should we just leave him be?
Okay, she'll handle the jokes. I will be serious and say, if a report came out, New York Times, this is tragic, and I don't even like to speculate about this, but Elon Musk found having taken his life. Would people genuinely be shocked? Like, sure, it is shocking, but I mean, there are certainly warning signs. Again, I don't like to speculate about this sort of stuff, and I am not doing this as a joke or sarcastic or whatever. I know that I do that frequently. I'm being very clear, that's not what I'm doing here. But this is a guy who clearly has some deep problems, and he is trying to fix them in a ton of ways that cannot fix his problems. Anyway, feel free if you continue to be an Elon Musk bootlicker to get mad at me in the comments or whatever. I don't need help. He's the one who could use some assistance. Perhaps therapy rather than more LSD, or therapy and LSD. I've heard that it could be therapeutic, but it doesn't seem to be helping him. Okay, with that said, we're gonna jump into our final story, I think, of the show. Marjorie Greene is speaking out strongly in defense of Tucker Carlson's apparently impending interview, perhaps, with Vladimir Putin by attacking those who think maybe there's something a little bit weird about this. So she put up this tweet. Democrats and their propagandists in the media are spasming at the prospect of Tucker Carlson interviewing Putin. It's not a spasm. Spasm is what you do when trying to do a pull-up. They feel entitled to the position of gatekeeper and believe they are the ones who tell you what to think and believe. They hate when someone like Tucker goes off script. We have a free press in this country, and it's people like Tucker Carlson who we depend on to speak the truth. Stick a pin in that final point because we will be returning to it. But what is she on about here? Well, he is apparently in Moscow, as you can see in this video.
Maybe interview Putin.
And does his little shoulder shrug. He's having fun. He's gonna do some propaganda for a despot. It's fun. It's fun. So anyway, the Kremlin is not dismissing these rumors. They're saying many journalists come over here, blah blah blah, whatever. It seems like that's what he's going to do. Whatever it is, it's going to be terrible and bad for America. But it does seem like that's what he's going to do. I have thoughts about that as well as what Marjorie Greene had to say. But what do you think, Francesca?
I think it's actually terrifying. Like I kind of want to laugh as sort of disgustingly as Tucker Carlson will laugh during this interview. Like, how many Ukrainians? Oh, they killed themselves. Like, but it is absolutely disgusting and terrifying the way that the right is laundering not just the money from Russia. Hello, the NRA was a funnel for Russian money in 2016. We forget this. We're called like Russian conspiracy theorists. No, I say that with no Rachel Maddow implied, all right? I say that with no Russiagate, brain thing. It was the biggest, it's been the biggest story in terms of foreign meddling in our election. But the fact that they are laundering these despots for their right-wing consumption, whether it's, homie from Turkey, or no, sorry, or
Erdogan.
Erdogan, yeah, Erdogan and Orban. That's who I meant, Orban. Yeah. Or obviously Vladimir Putin, who is in the middle of this war on Ukraine still.
And Bolsonaro previously, obviously not anymore, but at one point, yes.
Yeah. So I just think it's really chilling because it shows what they are, paving the road for in terms of, hey, we need our own Putin here. Putin's a good guy.
Yeah, look, I want to tie all these things together. So please. Marge is like, you guys are just mad because he's going off script. He's not going off script. It's a different script, but it's not new. He's not actually a rebel or a wild card. The idea that authoritarian rulers should be able to do whatever they want, decimate however many civilians they want, is not some new rebel play by him. There have always been politicians in America that are perfectly willing to watch despots absolutely ravage civilian politicians. So I'm not impressed by that at all. You know what would have been off script for Tucker Carlson back when he was on Fox News in the midst of a multi-year thing where Donald Trump had been elevated to an emperor-like status. Tucker Carlson despised Donald Trump. He thought that he was horrible for the country, horrible for the Republican Party. The script was, yeah, but he's in charge of the party. You know who didn't go off script and say what he truly believed? Tucker Carlson. He kept to the script. He told his audience what they wanted to believe, even though he didn't believe it. Now, he has been outed since then on all of this. His private text messages have been released. He has no respect for Donald Trump, no respect for his audience. Marjorie Greene wants you to forget that. But that's the script that they're keeping to, one where they believe that these regular right-wingers are just stupid rubes. They're pawns in the game that they're playing. And so anyway, keep your concerns about like independent media to yourself, Greene. That's not why he's going there. It's propaganda, not journalism. Final thought, Francesca.
I mean, we did a matchup also of Tucker Carlson on Fox News and the things that he said and the things that Vladimir Putin said, right? It's word for word. It's like the scripts were written in the Kremlin. And again, like we brought receipts. We've done this time and time again. Oh, is it just coincidence that they're both exactly hammering the exact same point? I feel like we're all just being told we're crazy on this story. But anyway, I'm looking forward to the clips, John.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be great. Anyway, that's all the time that we have for the show today. Thank you everyone for joining us as we launched into this week. Assuming that the weather changes, assuming that the studio is not swept away into the Pacific Ocean, I will probably be back in studio tomorrow. Please, atmospheric river, deliver me from this stormy conditions. But for now, we're gonna be shooting our top 10 list. It's gonna be a fun one. We're gonna be talking about if we didn't have to worry about money, we didn't have to worry about any of that, what like other job would we get? Even if it was risky, even if it didn't pay well, we're gonna reveal a little bit about, I guess, our inner dreams, I suppose. Where can people watch you in the meantime, Francesca?
At my current job that clearly I don't care too much about money on. No, the Bitchuation Room every Tuesday and Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Thanks so much. Follow it youtube.com/FrannyFio. Tomorrow, actually, I have on one of the few Biden officials that resigned because of his support of Israel. That is Tarek Habash. He was at the Department of Education, and he's gonna be joining me tomorrow to talk all about why he resigned.
I think that's awesome. Everyone definitely check that out. For now though, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. I'll see you soon.